How do you become aware of something? We were just talking about earlier how to be observant and how to be aware of things. Because to be awake and to be aware, it is the opposite of what? To be in ghaflat. And the ghaflat, the heedlessness, it is the biggest enemy. And this is something that Shaykh Effendi has been concentrating on for years. Ever since I've known him for years. Ghaflat. Yes, especially in the dergah, he is hitting. When he travels a little bit, he doesn't talk too much about those kinds of things because the training when you are in camp is different. The training when you are visiting to give conference is different. Training when you are going to someone's house, it is different. You may speak a little bit for them to understand, but you cannot really train. So now, how do you become observant? How does a person become observant? We were talking about earlier a couple of examples that we brought up from Shaykh Effendi's time because of one event, one small thing that happened when I was reaching candy and the whole bowl fell down. And I'm saying what? It's not because I was in ghaflat and I knew it was in the wrong position. I knew it was. And I've said, this is how it's going to be. There is a certain protocol. But when that protocol is not put there for a specific reason and intention, then the smallest things can turn upside down. And so, why are we being observant? Why are we being observant? What is the importance of being observant? Say. You don't know? Why is it important not to be in ghaflat? You don't know? Say. That's right. Once you are aware, once you are not in ghaflat, you will start to know yourself more. Once you are aware, you're going to start to know Allah more. Once you are knowing yourself and you're knowing Allah more, you are fulfilling the reason of your creation. This is why it is important not to be in ghaflat. What happens when you are in ghaflat? What happens? Say. Say. I'm looking at you. Say.
If you're in ghaflat, you forget the creator and forget who you are, and then you lose our direction.
And what happens when you lose the direction?
You will go the wrong way.
You're going to end up in a very, very bad situation, dunya and akhirat. Now this ghaflat, it has nothing to do with shariat of fiqh. It has nothing to do with the ilmu zahir. You may even say it's nothing to do with religion, to be observant and not to be in ghaflat. But it has everything to do with religion, everything to do with spirituality, everything to do with taqwa. Because what is taqwa? What is taqwa? To be aware that Allah is looking at us. How can a man be in ghaflat? To be fooled by his ego, to be fooled by dunya or shaitan, to be in ghaflat. Because a man is only fooled when he is in ghaflat. You understand? A man cannot be fooled if he is not in ghaflat. You don't have enough knowledge, but you are not in ghaflat. Allah will send hidayah to you. Allah will send guidance to you. You're going to know, you're going to feel, something is going to be sent. You're going to understand. This is not so good. You cannot explain why. You will say, your instinct, your spiritual instinct is going to tell you whether something is acceptable or not. Man can have all the ilm in this world, knowing everything, but he's not knowing himself too much. He's not knowing how the ego can trick him. He's not knowing how shaitan can disguise himself and trick. He's not knowing how dunya can fool him. That time the man is the biggest fool. And all his ilm is not going to do him nothing. It's not going to help. We cannot be fooled. That is the bottom point. We cannot be fooled by shaitan. We cannot be fooled by ego. This is the bottom point. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, the one who fools and the one who gets fooled is not from us. And another hadith sharif is saying what? Beware from the vision of a believer, because he looks with the nur of Allah. You think when you look with the nur of Allah, you can get fooled? You cannot get fooled. You will know. That time, that knowledge, you not only understand it, you understand also the wisdom behind that knowledge. You also understand the intention behind that wisdom. You also be able to understand the destiny that is behind everything, and you're going to step back and let destiny to happen. Do you understand? So, how are we going to be training ourselves not to be in ghaflat? To train yourself not to be in ghaflat, it is not through reading Quran. It is not through making a zikr. This is where the dargah is important. This is where, if you have so many wrong habits, you have to be in a place where every wrong habit that you're going to have, there's going to be a reminder for you physically. Stop that. Don't do 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 that. Because all these actions are going to bring you to a ghaflat. You're going to catch yourself. You're going to stop yourself. You're going to try to change. But this takes time. It's not magic. There is no magic in Islam. This is through hard work. This is through struggling. This is through declaring jihad on your nafs. Your nafs wants to just move around. When you're sitting down, just for no reason wants to move around. Just wants to move around. I mean, it's very simple, basic example. Because you're so used, you're not watching your ego. It just whenever it wants to move, it moves. Any reason? No reason. I just want to move. You are controlled by your ego then that time. So now you are like that outside. You're coming to an association where there is sohbat or a majlis or a mawlud or something that requires you to be a little bit quiet. You cannot do it. Because that is becoming a habit. You're already hardwired by it. That time when you're praying, you think khushu is going to come to you. You think concentration and focus is going to come. Because whenever the reality is, whatever that is happening in your body, that something is happening, it's also happening in your mind, it's happening in your spirit. Tell me the person who is not moving around like this, that his mind is very focused. No. He's moving around because his mind is moving around. So his mind, his concentration is, there is no discipline to it. So how are you now? If there is no discipline, no concentration, how are you going to say La ilaha illallah? How are you going to say La ilaha illallah? How are you going to understand La? How are you going to understand ilaha? How are you going to understand illallah? You don't have the discipline. You say La, your mind is going to go somewhere else. Ilaha, your mind is going to go to the left. Illallah, your mind is going to go to the right. Muhammad Rasulullah is going to circle everywhere except for that kalima. Then how are you going to have that concentration and the khushu when you are making a prayer? What about all the other 5? Just pillars of Islam. They're teaching everything. And this is, by the way, this is part of manners. This is part of manners. This is part of adab. Adab, it is the attitude. And the attitude must show in the mannerism, must show in the behavior. You are picking up the Quran Karim and you want to read the Quran Karim. There's no manners to it. There's not going to be blessing. There may be coming a punishment to you. You're still reading the Quran, but there is going to be a punishment. For example, you can read the Quran, but can you take the Quran now and read it in the bathroom? Hasha, astaghfirullah. You cannot. Why is that? Because the bathroom is dirty. You cannot say that, but my intention is clean. So why I have to be afraid of their surrounding if it's dirty? Because the book of Quran itself is pak. It is pure. You do not even place it below the belly button. You place it high. But in these days, people, they are not following 1400 years of tradition that shows us how to treat the Quran. They're making it up. Or they are following unbelievers, how they treat their holy books. I remember one time when I was a kid, I was talking to this guy. He was saying something from the Bible. And he said, wait. He went inside, he took out the Bible, and he opened it, explained to me. And I said, okay. Then he closed the Bible, he put it between his knees, like this, holding it while he's doing something else. Now, we don't believe that the Bible is 100%. But still it is a holy book. And I'm saying you're treating your Bible like that? How can you? These days, Muslims, more they learn, more punishment is coming to them. Because there is no manners. The Quran Karim, in the old days, you don't print it. That's a matter of now between the scholars to decide if it's a bid'at or it's not a bid'at. In the old days, the Quran Karim is only written by hand, by saintly people, by holy people. People who are holy, people who are good. And the Quran Karim is held high. It is not so important now to be reading the Quran Karim, to bring it down and to read it so much if you are understanding the meaning and you're putting it in your lives. That's much better than reading it without understanding the meaning and putting it in your life. The characteristics and the manners of their life, it is based on the Quran and the Hadith. Some people say, we don't believe in that, putting the Quran so high, you don't bring it down, like Quran is unapproachable. You're not understanding the reason. Now Quran is very approachable, mashallah. Then what? Everyone is reading the Quran, then what? The world is becoming a better place, the Muslims are becoming better. There's so much Quran you're putting under the floor. There's so much Quran now that there is no power that comes when you just look and you take that book, because it is printed. You understand? Now when it's printed and there's so much, there's so many, you see every masjid is hundreds, people are putting it everywhere, putting it on the floor. People are reading it on the floor. They're lying down and they're opening it and they're reading it. Now we tell them this is no good. They look at us and say that don't make a shirk. We worship only Allah. So this is the point now. Because every manner that we have, it is going to teach us how to approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The manners that you have to your parents will teach you how to have the manners to have in front of a holy person. When you have the manners how to be in front of a holy person, it will teach you how to have the manners in front of the prophets. And the manners in front of the prophets is going to teach you how to have manners in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now the manners is not just controlling your body, but it's controlling your tongue, controlling your eyes, controlling your ears, controlling your heart. You understand? So your heart doesn't just go be very busy while you're standing, you're sitting, you're saying Allahu Akbar. But your heart is circling around, top speed everywhere. and you don't mean the words that you say in prayer. During the time of the Ottomans, to even touch the Quran Karim, not only you have to have a fresh wudu, you have to wear nice clothes. You have to put perfume. You have to be in a room where it's not busy. You can just concentrate. Because why? Because Allah is speaking to you. That time Allah is speaking to you. You light the incense, nice smelling, so that all the wrong things they go, the angels they come. There are prayers that you say before, you open it, now you have full closeness. You're entering into a different place, entering different thinking, entering into everything is different now. And never you're going to turn the pages of the Quran like this. Try to say in front of people now, this is the manners that you have to approach us reading from the Quran. They say you're crazy. Where in the Quran is saying that? So what do they have? They have small Qurans that they're putting here. Worse, they're putting here in their back pocket. I've seen people doing that. MashaAllah. So they're standing in the bus, standing like this. I want to read Quran. So they take out Quran and they open it. There's so many wrong things happening. People busy. They're reading Quran. What can you do in that kind of situation? Make zikr. Islam is providing answer for everything. You can make zikr. You have to read Quran. You know some surahs? Yes. You don't know anything? Recite Fatiha. But you don't take out the mushaf then that time, in that kind of situation, to be reading. What are you going to get from it? Not too much. That's why these days, majority Muslims knowing how to read, but they lost all their manners with each other, with their Lord, with the creation, believers and unbelievers. So we are here to put our manners properly, inshallah, not to fall into a ghaflat. Wa min Allahu tawfiq al-Fatiha. Amen.